Hello YouTube. Today I'm going to do a little bit of work on a Bell and Howell Zoom-matic model 414. I wasn't really sure about doing this video. I don't know how useful it's going to be, but I decided to go ahead and do it anyhow because somebody might get some use out of it. I'm going to show you how to take the guts out of these. The clock works in here that make everything go round and round. I actually bought this camera just for that purpose. I got it pretty cheap on eBay. This is just a 414 P. It has the power zoom, which doesn't particularly work especially well, but it's not a PD. P is power zoom, D would be dual electric eye, which you can see it doesn't have. But anyhow, moving right along, let's go ahead and just get right into it. So this is your basic wind it up yourself movie camera. It takes double 8mm film. Now before you start this, you'll want to wind up the guts a little bit, and I'll show you why later. So you want to have that wound up, and then flip that up there, and you take this screw here and a non-slip something or other, and turn that thing out counterclockwise. This acts like a clutch. In this position, the clockwork can unwind without moving the handle. You pull it down like this. Well, it doesn't do that, but you pull the handle down like this in the winding position, and it closes a clutch in there that allows it to, by way of friction, crank up the guts. So take that off. Take the retaining screw off, and then you've got this hub, and then you have a felt washer that has to come out also. I hope you can see that. So it's wound up, crank is off. I'm going to open up the guts. I'm going to do this in real time too, because it's not terribly complex. Film gate is closed. There's two screws, one here that you need to get to. This one, you go right through the back of the film gate, and you can undo that screw, and you open the film gate all the way up, and it accesses this screw. And once loose, film gate comes out like that, and then this piece will kind of wiggle its way out of there. Then to get all the rest of this stuff out, this bottom, this is actually the powered winder. Has a screw in the center of it that is left-handed thread. You undo that screw, you get that spring, a little cross thingamajig. Keep all that together, and then you have the inner hub piece. Don't know what it's called, but I'm going to call it the little inner hub piece. That exposes the base plate. You've got three screws here. Take those three screws out. Make sure this thing is still recording, which it is. I'm only going to do this once. I've actually done it several times, but I don't want to get so far into it that if this camera craps out, my digital camera craps out, that I'm in a position where I have to start over. Okay, so you got those three screws out, and with the powered drive removed, this will come up just like that. got a paper back. And this one you can see was used quite a lot. Whoever owned this camera was a pretty prolific photographer. There's marks from the spools worn right in there. So here are the guts. Now, in order to get this thing out, it's a little bit of a trick. You have to kind of, well, there's no good way to do it, really. You got to do it so that you don't damage the shutter, which you'll see exposed here pretty soon. So you kind of wiggle it up, making sure the shutter doesn't get jammed underneath that edge there. Now this is the trick here. It's just a tiny bit too big. So what I'm going to do here, oops, once I get it loose again, and I've done this a couple of times already, it's been the same thing every time. I haven't found any magic secret. It needs to come up. There's a, you probably can't see it, but right on the front of the rotary shutter is, I guess, the retaining nut there, and that gets hung up when you're right at the point of removal. And what I've had to do is just kind of force it out. I cannot stress enough that this is a great way to destroy your camera. Okay, I got it to the back this time. I got it to tip up and past this little boss here where a screw goes in, and there you have the actual guts to your camera. And it's wound up so you can manually work this thing. Check the digital camera again. So right here is what your stop and go button works with. So you can take your finger or a tool and you can make it work that way. That's single frame exposure for like stop motion. And you'll notice that shutter stops in the same position every time. And then you can press it down and you can see how the shutter actually works. Now I'm not going to unwind this thing very far, but I wanted you to get some kind of a look at what this thing actually does. And that's what I wanted to show you, is how to get this thing out. Now to put it back together again, carefully set this aside. I have, this is the, keep that, you're going to need it. This is the stop and go button right here. I've already made a mark inside. You probably can't see it because it's black on black. A mark here where it's in the stop position, so that when I slide those guts back in there, I can catch this little tab and line it up with that gap right there that makes it do its magic. Now this that we saw fall out, this has to go back here. That is a shim that goes over the crank handle mounting screw, is what we'll call it. And if you want to look at the rest of it, you can see there's two tension spools. Somewhere in here is the governor that keeps it running at uniform speed and shuts it off when the torque, when the stored energy becomes too little. So anyhow, here we go. I'm going to put that back over its crank hole. And you can blow this out. Let's have a look at the inside. All of the stuff in here, this does not touch any of that. As close as you get is there. This is the inside. There's the back end of the lens, which I'm told is a very good lens. So I've read. All of your automatic aperture stuff is in here. The gearing for the automatic zoom or power zoom is all in here. So taking the guts out does not affect any of that. So now we're going to put the guts back in. In case you missed it, you need this. This goes here. Okay, that's upright. This is also your full wind indicator, which on this one really doesn't work especially well. I think this camera's got a lot of miles on it. In any case, this needs to be here. So I'm going to set this down over the hole, and I'll align it after the fact. And I've got my mark lined up, the pen mark on the stop and go button lined up with a black on black marker. So I'll be pretty close when I drop this thing in there. So put this in, and again, you're kind of forcing it. Oh, it went in pretty good that time. Next thing, you want to make sure these buttons for the power zoom are pulled out, or they will catch, and you don't want them to do that. There, drop that in there. Now we need to know, I'm not correct here. Got to make sure the stop and go button is properly set. It's not. It moved on me. Still not there, but almost. So set in there. Stop frame works, and go works. So we're good. Then I want to check, make sure that washer actually went over the stud, which it did. It's sitting in there flat. These buttons are pulled out, so it's not rocking on those. And I'm going to set that under there. We take our plate, set it back where it belongs, and put these screws back in. I'm wearing the wrong glasses, so these really aren't quite powerful enough. There. There's one. When you put these screws back in, you want to have something propping up the camera, because the stud that the crank sits on protrudes through the body of the camera, and if you just lay it down on its side, it's going to make the guts pop up, and the thing's not going to go together right. Let's check the digital. Still ticking away the seconds. So 3 screws are in. Going to snug those down, and only snug them down. Double check the function. Okay. Stop motion. 1 click at a time. Run is good. The only thing that doesn't really work particularly well is the power zoom, but I'm not going to worry about that because the rest of it works very well. This plate goes back in, and it'll just a little bit of a wiggle. Yeah, a little bit of a wiggle, just like I said. Like that. So now you can see the holes through the plate. I'm going to take the film gate, which I have previously cleaned. I'm going to set this back in there. And we're going to try it this way. Through all that stuff. Don't force it. And this one, I think I'll use the tweezers for this one. Clock is still ticking. Oops. Alright, I'm going to set this up, which is probably an easier way anyway. A lot of improv here. I'll close the film gate. I'll set that screw. Oops, damn it. Still not cooperating. I could probably stop for this. Okay, I just saved a little bit of repetition. Screws are in. I'm going to give them a generic snug because this has a certain amount of alignment. Once it's in there, you want to check it to make sure that the claw, which is here, doesn't hit either side. Sounds pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead, snug these up. One of the times I did this as a warm-up, I got this film gate in there just a little bit crooked, and you could hear the claw hitting the frame. Still sounds good. And we're going to put this thing back on, this back, or whatever you want to call it. It does have an up and a down. The upside is flat. I'm going to set that there. Put that little cross thingamajig down on the post. Put the screw, stem, spring, and all the rest of it on there. And counterclockwise to tighten it up once you find the hole, which I haven't. There it is. I want to make that snug because that has to pull the full spool. That takes care of the inside. I put felt washer and this hub thing, which I didn't clean, so I'll give that a quick wipe now. Oops, stay in camera so you can. So, having cleaned this, put this back over the crankshaft. I'm going to set this down. See, it's got tabs that go down into corresponding slots in that collar. Now we take the center nut, I'm going to crank that thing back down there. Take the no skid, whatchamacallit, turn that down. That's as far as your thumb will go. And then by flipping it, you engage the clutch, and it'll gain some energy. And there you have it. This also has slow motion, which I recall reading is like 48 frames per second. I'm not exactly sure about that. Let's run it down. Just wanted to show you, if anybody should ever want, to take the guts out of one of these old Bell and Howell cameras, or probably any similar style cameras, movie cameras, that's the basic idea of how you do it. This in its day was had the capacity for manual or automatic, and the automatic is really only handy if you think you can find film that has a speed range from, this says I think 16 up to 40 ISO, and good luck finding that. So you'll just have to use it on manual, and you probably can't see that. This one's a little sluggish, but the manual control does work. It needs a little bit of encouragement. It has a aperture range from 4 to 22, and you can see it change. If you look down the barrel of the lens, you can watch the two, I don't know what you call it, aperture leaves work together. It's got a very interesting setup. Be that as it may, that's how you take the guts out. I didn't need to do any work to it, so I don't have anything to show you. I just wanted to show you what you could do if you wanted to take one of these apart. So that's it. Till next time.